Hello, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Showboys. My name is Mike, and I'm joined with my good friend and what are you calling yourself these days? A Showboys correspondent,
Contributor.
Jordan, contributor. There you go. Yeah, welcome. How you doing tonight?
Good. How you doing?
Great.
Good.
Just rewatched episode 1 of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and real excited to get into it tonight with you. Before we get started, if you're tuned into the live stream, thank you very much. If you like what you hear at any time during the stream, you can always chime in the comments. It's a nice, fun way to engage with us during the show, and we can throw your comments or questions up on the screen and answer anything you might need answered, or you can correct me in a lot of things I'll probably get wrong in my Marvel knowledge. So looking forward to breaking down the episode tonight. As always, we're glad that you're here. So yeah, I guess to start off, what were your just initial thoughts of the episode?
So I went in with the idea that it was going to be really, really boring. I heard a lot of things before I actually watched it, but I was pleasantly surprised. I liked it a lot. I think the way they dove into the characters was really unexpected. I don't know if you felt that way or not. I mean, I guess the trailer kind of alluded to it, but what they dug into with Sam and his sister was really cool, and also the I guess it's almost like a substance abuse counseling, right? That Winter Soldier was going through.
Yeah, his like AA, but instead of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's Assassins Anonymous.
Exactly. Yeah.
We'll definitely get into the details of all that stuff. I really enjoy what they did, like exactly what you're talking about. I have a lot to say about some of those things. I also was pleasantly entertained. I think it started out exactly how I thought it would start out. We got a dose of your typical MCU stuff, which is what I was expecting out of this series after WandaVision, and how out of the box and all the steps and leaps that they took to kind of like be a little different with that show. I kind of expected this one to just be your typical MCU formula, lots of action sequences, lots of heroes beating bad guys, and things of that nature. And we got a good dose of that this episode. So yeah, without further ado, let's just recap the episode.
Yeah.
If any of you listening or watching the live stream listen to any of our Mandalorian companion series, then you kind of know how the episodes here of the Falcon and Winter Soldier companion series will play out. Basically, what we're going to do every week after the latest episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier comes out, we watch it. I watch it multiple times, and then we jump on the live stream here and we recap the episode. So we just go through the whole thing, talk about what happened, and while we do that, we break down the happenings and anything that we think might mean something in the future of the series, or in this case, the future of the MCU, with how interconnected all these movies and shows are. And then, we'll probably get into some speculation. We'll probably talk some Easter eggs. If I'm sure Jordan will notice them all, and I will notice none of them. So we're really depending on you for that, Jordan. And then, we got our Marvel origin story segment. So I'm excited to, get into the comic origin story of a particular character tonight. And then, of course, if you listen to our episode 0 of the companion series, you'll know that I am on Ring Watch. Specifically, 10 of them I will be looking out for. I made some wild speculation in our episode 0 about potentially this series being tied with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So we'll see if I was just like on some kind of crazy drugs, or if that might come to fruition as the series progresses. But
Or
again,
both.
hey, it could be. You never know. That would probably be the best case scenario. But yeah, so the episode starts off with Sam just kind of getting ready in his room, getting his nice suit on. He's got the shield like laying out on the bed and in all of its glory. It's beautiful red and blue and white hues. And he's just, getting ready to, what we learn later in the episode is to, like, quote unquote, retire the shield at the Smithsonian. And in this scene, you get some cool audio from Endgame. You have the conversation between Sam and Steve Rogers, old man Steve Rogers on the bench with, Captain America asking Sam, how does it feel like after he hands him the shield? And Sam says, like, it's someone else's. And, Steve replies with, well, it isn't. And considering how this episode ends, I thought that was a really brilliant way to start the episode. Because once we get to the end, I mean, obviously, if you're listening to this show, I'm assuming that you've watched the episode, or else that would be really weird that you're listening to this beforehand. But did you kind of notice that how like you get that audio, and then with how at the end someone else actually takes the shield and it's like kind of like that cool play on that clip. But yeah, then we kind of transition there to Sam being debriefed on the giant military plane about the LAF criminal organization, which I am going to have some questions for you about this, to rescue Captain Vasant. And then we also meet First Lieutenant Torres in this scene here. He's the eyes on the ground while Sam's in the air trying to, rescue this captain. Sam's told he needs to be subtle. This is Tunisian airspace they're about to head into, and they don't want to break any treaties or anything. Put the United States in a bad light here. And Sam makes it over to the hijacked plane. And wouldn't you know, our good friend, Old Batroc, is back, played by George St. Pierre. And also in this like flight sequence and entry into the plane, we're kind of shown that maybe Falcon had, some Stark Tech upgrades to his suit, a lot of new gadgets. What you have anything for us here before I start getting into my questions and whatnot for this chunk?
A little bit. So I remember last week we talked about Batroc and, was he going to be in the cheesy purple and yellow outfit? He wasn't, obviously, but he had the vest on, which is kind of a cool throwback.
Nice.
And, we obviously got to see a lot more detailed version of Red Wing, right? We were talking about that last week also, and it was kind of pivotal to the whole opening sequence. He arguably did more than Sam.
Yeah.
I
thought that was really cool because in the comics, wasn't it actually was it a literal bird?
Actual Falcon.
Red Wing. Yeah. So I as soon as he said Red Wing, I was like, Jordan said something about that. Vindication.
Yeah. And he was kind of like a Star Wars droid to like a A-Wing and X-Wing, right? It was kind of, he's probably actually more useful than that, but he had like an underslung minigun, had missiles attached to him. I mean, he just destroyed everything. It was really
cool. Definitely handy to have chilling on your back.
One.
So, first off, what does LAF stand for? And like, who is this criminal organization? What are we dealing with here?
So I'm trying to figure out, like, what I was gathering from that is the fact that we were talking about Batroc's brigade earlier on, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't know exactly what it's going to stand for, but I feel like that is going to end up being the Batroc's brigade. Obviously, Batroc's brigade sounds kind of dumb, or I mean, you know what I mean?
Doesn't translate well from the comics.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. So I think he was obviously the ringleader of what was going on there, right?
Yeah.
So my assumption is LAF is going to be Batrock's organization who gets hired in to do crazy things, probably by Zemo or, you know, someone we'll probably see coming up called the Power Broker.
Okay, interested about that. We'll have to dig into that later. So with that being said, are you thinking that this won't be the last time we see Batroc there after his great escape from the exploding helicopter?
I don't think it'll be the last time we see him, but he may be out of friends. I think they're all.
He's gonna have to hit up the brigade for some more buddies to help him out.
They're blown up and some are pancakes. It's yeah.
Oh yeah.
How about the one guy that got shot and the pilot? The ricochet.
Yeah.
There was like a second it's like he got like shot by a 9
got double
millimeter.
tapped.
Yeah, but like it was like a 9 millimeter, like a little 22.
Yeah,
went through him after.
Yeah, they definitely watch Zombieland. Yeah. So this Captain Vasant, is there anything special about this, or is this just kind of like a placeholder, or not a placeholder, but an excuse for some early episode action here from Sam?
So Captain Vasant doesn't ring any bells for me.
Okay.
The show is becoming what I think is going to kind of, if there was a Batman show without Batman, I call it the Bat Family. This is going to be the Captain America family. You know what I mean? I think we're going to see everyone encapsulated around that character's history. But that name doesn't ring a bell, but it very well could be out there.
Okay. Once again, proving to be rather useless. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't want to like Google everything before like we jump into this. So
right.
I'm like just
no.
constant,
Same.
whatever. But
yeah, I try. I don't know if I ever said this on our Mandalorian companion series, but with that series and now this Falcon and Winter Soldier series, I try to avoid any sort of talk or other recaps or breakdowns of these episodes because I don't want to like subconsciously just like regurgitate what other people think about the episodes. So I'm right there with you, my friend. But I did note here, about the stray bullets hitting the pilot. Like I thought that was kind of like a cool effect because I kind of wasn't expecting that to happen.
I was like, he's dead, and then I'm like, oh wait, now he's dead.
Yeah. I did love the like wing shield, to block all the bullets. That was super cool.
It was there's so much detail, right? In like the metallic feathers, I guess you call them. I don't know what they are yet, obviously. That was one of the highlights of that. And when they fought too, it was so cool. Like the beating of the chests.
Yeah.
Did you catch that?
Yeah.
It would have been fun. Like his wings came out obviously when he hit his chest. I was joking with my girlfriend about it and her son that it'd be funny if he like puffed his chest up like a bird.
And all of a sudden he has like tail feathers shoot up. Yes. The fight scene there between Batroc and Sam was really cool. And again, I like I talked about in episode 0, I think it's super cool that like an MMA fighter is playing this character. Similar to Gina Carano playing Cara Dune, rest in peace. Pour one out. But like these MMA fighters breaking into acting, getting to play like these really cool action oriented characters. So like their fight scenes are legit because they know how to fight. So I love that.
Absolutely.
And he didn't do a terrible job delivering his lines. I thought he was decent.
He does like what kind of Arnold did earlier on in his acting career. He says that keeps that stoic look and just let you know he's business. He probably does. Pounds
the chest. But one thing I kind of wasn't a fan of during this opening action sequence were the like close-ups on Sam's face as he's flying through the air. I was like, okay, maybe we need to do that so much.
there's no way he should be able to breathe going at the speeds. I mean, I know it's superheroes and comics.
Right.
I get it. I just, for some reason, we see, super soldiers, we see ridiculous things, a guy with a, metallic arm, obviously, and then I look at that, I'm like, that's fake. I don't believe that. It's so stupid. I know. It's just so blatant, and
right.
the speeds were kind of interesting. Like, he's flying after a helicopter, right, with missiles chasing him, but neither he or the missiles are catching up to the helicopter. I think that was at one point. Just a little weird. But.
So basically, Jordan hated this episode.
I like the episode a lot.
I remember thinking similar things when I was watching through like the animated Star Wars series, Rebels and Clone Wars, where like sometimes when they're in space, they like need helmets and stuff, but then other times they're just like on top of spaceships and they're just like in space with no spacesuit, and I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do here?
Give me some kind of
which one are we going with? Are we doing one or the other? Come on. But yeah, I agree with you there on that. And then the last thing I wanted to say about this is like, so imagine how painful it would have been to be in Vassant's shoes, or seat, I should say, when Sam flies through the helicopter and just like tackles him out the other side.
It's one of those
who knows how fast he was going.
It's one of those times where you don't want to be saved. Like he jumps up in Patrick's arms. He's like Patrick's arms, like save me.
Yeah, pretty sure that would just like snapped him in half.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great, opening sequence to kind of get your blood pumping and get you ready to go for the rest of the episode. So I appreciated that, especially after, like I said, such a stark contrast to WandaVision and how that was a slow burn. I loved. But still, there was a lot of mystery and, obviously the sitcom trope. And, it took like 4 or 5 episodes to get out of that trope. And this one's just like, all right, we're starting off with a nice like 6-minute action sequence. So I was down for it.
It was also a good action sequence to bring us down from, again, like a world ending or universe ending situation that Thanos gave, right? It just gave us more of a, not a street level, but just the next level up from that.
Yeah. Battle. And it was nice too to like kind of show off pretty much the capabilities of Falcon.
Yes.
Because I mean, you see him in fight scenes in the, the team up movies and stuff, but like this was a just pure Falcon fight scene, and it was a long one, and you got to see all the cool gadgets and stuff. So I appreciate that.
Don't discount Red Wing.
Yeah, his boy Red Wing. But then, next we see Sam and Torres in the middle of a city. I don't know if the location of the actual city they were in popped up on screen, but with Sam sitting there fixing up Red Wing because poor guy took a bullet. And it was kind of funny because Torres is like, if you just rewire this here, and he's like, hey, stop it!
Get away!
Yeah, smacks his hand, get out of here.
Yep.
But we learn that Sam's been working with the Air Force for 6 months at this point, I believe he said. And Torres is kind of like looking around the general area they're in with his phone on some kind of app, I'm assuming, that reveals the Flag Smasher hand logo. And he gives us some nice exposition on the Flag Smashers and like what they are, and also terrible app if you're like a terrorist organization.
Right.
Like maybe don't have an app where you can just scan around and see where everyone is.
What's that? Yeah.
Maybe hopefully it's decrypted or something, but or encrypted. But yeah.
We did land that right though. It wasn't, I mean, as far as our knowledge goes so far, that it's an organization rather than an actual one-person villain, that it wasn't comics. So.
Yes, but we will get to the apparent person in charge of the Flag Smashers in a little bit here, because they do seem to have at least someone who's pretty powerful looking guy or gal.
Either the muscle or the leader.
Yeah. But in Torres's little Flag Smasher exposition, he says that the Flag Smashers, quote, want a unified world without borders. So yeah, there's their agenda. It's laid out for us in the first 10 minutes of the episode here. And then we get like nice little conspiracy chat with Torres and Sam about, Captain Rogers is really on the moon. He's flown there by Sam himself.
Right.
So new segment, the Captain America Moon Watch. Well, that'll be right after the 10 Rings watch. But I'm assuming that Torres is going to be a big player, at least in the series. I don't know what his comic counterpart or his character is based off from the comics. But is this going to be an important player?
In the comics, he plays a role with Sam Wilson. Whether they'll do that in the show, I don't know. Some of the clues of who might be behind some of what's happening leads me to believe that something could happen to him. But in the comics, and again, this I guess not really a spoiler because we don't know what's going to happen, right? But he takes up the mantle of Falcon when Sam Wilson becomes Captain America, but he doesn't do it in the same way that Sam Wilson has with just mechanical wings or whatever. He's basically
he goes all South Park and gets like real wings sewn on his back.
he kind of does actually. He gets mutated.
Oh no way!
Yeah, he gets mutated into a bird-like creature and it's a little bit of vampiric attributes too. So who knows if they'll do that? It sounds ridiculous, right?
Hey, we just got witches introduced to us, so you never know.
True.
You never know.
That's true.
I mean, Morbius is coming, and even though it's not like directly, is it directly an MCU or is it more of a Sony?
It's a Sony Studios thing, or the Sony Spider-Verse. But
right.
There's clues that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness will tie into that.
Right.
I'm waiting for personally, and I'm also waiting to put it on eBay. Of course, this character comes out.
Nice.
The first. Them to bring Madam Web into it. Madam Web is basically an interdimensional entity that connects all the different Spider-Verse together. So I feel like it's a prime place to do it.
Yeah. I feel like there's gonna be so much, and I really hope that with the title of Multiverse of Madness, they don't just Ralph Boner us. Which have you seen or finished WandaVision?
No, yeah.
Okay, well then that might not make any sense to you.
I was like, oh, it sounds hot. Okay.
Yeah, it's great. You'll figure it out when you finish WandaVision.
That's funny.
But yeah, so Torres, he basically is the Dick Grayson for Falcon, eh?
Yeah.
He just kind of.
He never. I mean, obviously, he was never a character that, completely blew up, kind of thing. He's not like a huge character, but he's kind of the next. I guess he's more of a real Falcon than Falcon. I guess because it's literal bird wings.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So we'll have to keep our eyes out on that, see if he develops into a bigger player, or if he's just kind of restricted to this mini series, or if Sam Wilson does, like, by the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier, assume the role of Captain America if Torres then steps up, like you're saying, to replace him as Falcon, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and he also has I think I'm almost positive he's part of a group called Champions, and Ms. Marvel is part of that same team.
Okay.
So maybe maybe they'll cross something over with TV shows in that aspect. So.
Yeah, true. Good to know. We'll have to keep our eyes out. So what did you think about the conspiracy theories? I thought it was kind of funny.
I thought it was good, especially even though Sam Wilson. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but Sam Wilson downplayed them, and he still kind of went after him again to make sure that they were indeed false. And he's just like, no, they're not, or they're not true.
Yeah.
I think it's even though so much craziness can happen, like in the MCU, like, obviously people disappeared for 5 years and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What the hell else could happen, right? Of course, Captain America could be on the moon.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting though, because now that we're talking about it, like we didn't see Steve Rogers die.
Absolutely
right?
not,
So
no.
like, but they're all making it sound like he is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously he's super old. I mean, like, do people just? I wonder if it was made public that he came back after returning all the Infinity Stones to their timelines, or if that was just like, oh, he went away to return these things and never came back, so he could just kind of like live out the rest of his life in peace.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you that question too. There's nothing to my knowledge that the public and the MCU understand that Captain America is old or whatever, right?
Yeah, I don't even know if they made it public that he was going back to return the Infinity Stones. Like,
yeah,
they might have just been like, oh, well, he never made it out of the battle against Thanos.
You know what? And one of the things that I did do is I went online and looked for some of the zoom ups of the Captain America Museum, because there's a lot of different clues in there as to history, like for the first Captain America movie up through now. But there's one panel in there that says the final mission, and that was basically the final mission that they went on to bring everyone back. But again, it never, from what I read, I didn't see anything mentioning that is part of his final mission. So
nice.
It's
yeah,
open.
And it's something that I never really thought about. But then, like, after hearing, what they talked about in this episode, and then as we're talking about it, I was like, I wonder if anyone even knows what happened, or if he's actually still alive anyways, because he was pretty old when he came back. You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now we return to Washington to see the actual ceremony here of, Sam giving his speech at the Smithsonian, and, basically talking about how great of a symbol and a hero and a man that Steve Rogers was, as Captain America and just as Steve Rogers. And, basically hanging up the shield that he only held briefly, saying, we need new heroes, one suited for the times we are in. And I thought his speech was very nice, considering their relationship, Steve and Sam. Yeah, it was a nice touching, like, send off to Captain America, and the camera pans across the crowd in attendance there, and once our buddy Rhodey's there, War Machine, which I wonder how much he made just for being in this show for like 2 minutes.
I literally thought of the same thing.
Probably a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, what would you kind of think of the speech and this whole sequence of him, like, hanging up the shield, so to literally and figuratively?
Yeah, right. I thought it was good. Obviously, I think that it was. They almost treated it like a funeral, right?
Mm-hmm.
It felt like he was giving like a eulogy or something like that. But I think there was he was happy to get rid of it, I think, because he doesn't think that he deserves it. He doesn't want that. But you could also tell, you could also tell that he was pretty, he felt guilty about it too. I don't know if you got that or not, but I think that is a big setup as to, when we talk about the ending, what overcame him at the end.
Yeah. And all of these scenes are the ones that we talked about like, his possible reluctance to take on the shield and the mantle of Captain America in our last episode. And turns out he's willingly giving it up.
Yes.
But yeah, I didn't think really about the guilt factor, but I could see that. It makes sense, especially when you see the end. But yeah, I guess to go off of what we were talking about right before this scene, like, you're right, this does seem like Captain America's funeral here. Mm-hmm. So I think they think he's dead, which I think is pretty safe to say now. But yeah,
like how or why, right? Like, I mean, They don't mention it. I swear that you watched it twice. So they definitely don't mention it, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, okay.
But
Real quick, one thing I was wondering about is that shield. In the last episode too, we talked about when you rewatched Endgame. So that Captain America obviously was from a new timeline, technically, because he stayed in that timeline, right?
mm-hmm.
So the normal vibranium shield was destroyed
Mm-hmm.
by Thanos. So what is the shield made out of, right?
He just comes back with a giant symbol bag with the Captain America shield in it.
Yeah.
So that's a good.
Early on in Captain America, his shield was made of like a form of adamantium. I don't remember the particular version of it, but
isn't that what like X-Men or Wolverine's like claws and stuff is made? Okay.
Yep. Shatterstar's swords, Lady Deathstrike's nails, Wolverine's claws and bones. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's interesting. I know I personally didn't really put much thought into like, oh, where'd that shield come from? Because his shield got destroyed clearly, and he just came from different timelines.
Yeah.
So and the design is different. It's noticeable because it like around the star circle of the shield, you have those like little
etchings,
little inlays or whatever.
Yep.
So I wonder if that'll ever be addressed, or if we're just supposed to be like, it's just the same shield from somewhere else.
The director's like, what do you want from me? Okay.
Yeah, geez, do I have to explain literally everything? Well, you backed yourself in this corner yourselves, Feige. I mean, if you didn't make everything mean something, like, you did this to yourself. But so Sam's thanked for, quote, coming forward with the shield. And the way that, like, that was said, those like specific words, like coming forward with the shield, makes me think that like he was asked to do this. Like, did you get that vibe? Like, just the way that sequence happened, it just felt kind of like he was almost being like forced to do this
in a way, because it said you made the right decision by doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And I never really thought about that, I guess, until you just pointed that out, and then that part clicked in, or there was almost like a subtle threat prior to it.
Yeah, and which could play into like his demeanor, at the very beginning of the episode, and then during that speech, which could play into like the guilt aspect. Maybe he feels guilty for like following through with this demand or whatever to like return the shield and not be Captain America for whatever reason.
Because they had bigger plans, right?
Yeah, exactly. But then we get like a cool conversation between Rhodey and Sam, and basically Rhodey's being like, yo, what are you doing? Why are you doing this, man? Like, that's supposed to be you. And Sam just reiterates like, hey, it just doesn't feel right. Like, I'm not worthy of this shield. Like, it was Steve's shield. Like, it's not mine. Which you got to respect, the respect that he had for Steve and Captain America. And it, again, just kind of like goes to show the type of relationship those two had. It was a nice little conversation there.
Yeah, I like how Rose was talking about how the world's broken. Alliances are broken. No one can really trust each other anymore. I think that is gonna, probably have more meaning later than we think.
Well, again, like this plays into what I wanted to get into, particularly about Sam's story arc with his sister in this episode, and then Bucky's story arc. And what I really loved about WandaVision is how these two series so far have done such a fantastic job tackling the subject of people dealing with the repercussions of the snap and the blip. Like, and that's something that I hate the blip. Like, that's so
snap
dumb.
And the blip. It's just,
but hey, that's what they call it, so that's what I'm going to go with.
Back to back hearing him is funny.
The snap blip. But like, I never thought that they would, deal with this stuff. I figured they would just gloss over it because, hey, it's a movie and all the people came back. Like, aren't you happy? Like, no one really died. But like, we're seeing all of like grief, and like people's lives were, completely flipped upside down. Like half the universe vanished, and then 5 years later they all came back. Like life had moved on, and now so like not only did it suck for the people who survived the snap because their world was wrecked, but then like the people who came back, they had to come back like 5 years later when life had already moved on, and now they have to like figure their way back into society and their lives.
It was the worst for the 24-year-old guy that married an 18-year-old, and her father really, really hated it. And then he disappeared for 5 years, or she disappeared for 5 years. Comes back, it's still 18 years old.
Yeah, now he really hates it. But yeah, it's just what they've done diving into these like story arcs dealing with this stuff has just been really cool. And what we see that more later on in the episode with Sam and his sister, Sarah, I believe her name was. But yeah, to all that being said, like that's what Rhodey's talking about. Like, that's why the world is in shambles and broken, because like it literally was broken. And everything changed for 5 years, and now things are just different. And Sam was one of the people who got snapped in return. Same with Bucky. So they're like having to basically learn how the world works now. So yeah, it's interesting. We'll have to keep our eyes on those types of storylines moving forward. But then we get the Winter Soldier's debut in the episode, and man, this was another cool action sequence. While it was not nearly as long as Sam's, it was equally as dope. We see Bucky punch through a wall. He's like jumping over stair rails, down flights of stairs, shooting people behind his back, and like doing all this, doing all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, all right, sweet. Like Bucky's still wearing the Winter Soldier stuff. This is awesome. This must have been a bunch of bad guys. And then it could have been a bunch of bad guys. You never know. But he takes out the last guy, and he just throws out an old Hail Hydra. And I'm like, okay, this isn't good. This is not good. Right. How did we get here? And then it goes from bad to even worse when he decides to shoot the poor innocent bystander at his door. And but no worries. It was all just a nightmare. It's all just a bad dream. And Bucky wakes up, and by the way, like he's got a flat screen TV. Okay, he's clearly got cable or satellite or something, because he's got a soccer game on. Why do you not own a mattress at least?
It's a little strange, right?
Like
it's,
just a mattress. You don't need the whole bed. You don't need a king. Like you just get a twin. Like don't sleep on the floor. That's bad for your back, man. Come on.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe it's like. Maybe he's got some kind of memory where it's like comfort. He doesn't feel like good being comfort. I don't know. Maybe Feige's like, yeah, I like it. that right there. That.
They had to save some money for special effects, so they couldn't buy a mattress. But like, sorry, dude, you got to lay on the floor.
It was really cool. When he first came to that scene, he was using a Scorpion machine pistol, I think. The classic. It's kind of cool to see.
Yeah,
it's tasteful. But all that happened though. He was just having a nightmare of it. So it wasn't like a dream or anything. He was dreaming at that point in time, but he was having a nightmare of what he did while being the Winter Soldier.
The old flashback nightmare, the best kind.
Yep.
But yeah. Then that cue the ensuing therapy session. Obviously. We're in the therapist office with Bucky talking to his therapist. You have some quippy, funny exchanges between the two. But I loved we get the 3 rules that his therapist has for Bucky, and kind of trying to deal with his trauma of still clearly trying to get over being the Winter Soldier and all of the horrendous things that he was like forced to do as the Winter Soldier. But we learn these rules over a kind of funny flashback sequence of him trying to, I guess, seek vengeance in a way that he can while following these rules and not really like killing someone, but righting a wrong, I guess you could say. But yeah, so we got 3 rules here. We got rule number 1, can't do anything illegal. You got rule number 2, nobody gets hurt. And I loved how he's like, why, if this is so important, why isn't it rule number 1? She's basically like, shut up. Like, and then rule number 3, you know, he's gotta come to terms with, I am no longer the Winter Soldier. I am James Bucky Barnes, and you're part of my efforts to make amends. And I just love this whole sequence of like him basically like hijacking the car, or like hacking the car and like controlling it remotely into like scaring the people he was trying to like set up to be arrested, and then like somebody got hurt but they didn't die. He just like severely mangled a man's wrist and hand, and then like probably broke his orbital. Yeah, I mean, but he's not dead. And then I loved him basically saying rule number 3 to the lady he was trying to have arrested, which was pretty funny. But this whole scene and like the rules and the vengeance and the little book with the names in it really gave me some like CW Arrow Oliver Queen vibes. Yeah, I don't know if you ever watched that, but like, you failed this city or whatever he says.
His dad's book or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So that immediately, as soon as I saw a name in a book, I was like, okay, Oliver, geez, I've seen this before.
You know, honestly, it also reminded me of Steve Rogers. Didn't he have he had a notebook also for his things to learn, right, in modern day?
Yeah.
So that was, I think that was, I don't remember if it's a little notebook, right? But it reminded me of that too.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a nice callback, but like inverse of it. Right?
Yes, yeah.
Because like, of course, Steve would have like wholesome, like, I gotta learn all these things because I've been on ice for and he's just like, I must seek vengeance. I must right my wrongs. But yeah, we also get a few pieces of information revealed in this scene with the therapist. First, we learn that Bucky is ignoring texts from Sam. So I wonder what that's all about. Like, you know, is Bucky salty that Sam got the shield and not Bucky? Or is he like mad that Bucky is turning the shield over? Does he even know that Sam's retiring the shield? Like, is he mad?
Like Sam yet? Right.
Right.
I mean, have they ever really been like best friends?
True, because all the interactions in like Civil War and stuff, it's kind of just them arguing with each other, basically. But like, you know, is Bucky just kind of like, why don't you want to take this mantle? Like, it's important, it's an honor. Like, why are, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's going on there.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you have any like ideas of what you think that might lead to, or are you still kind of like up in the air like I am?
I'm very much so up in the air like you are. I feel like it would. I don't think there's a bone in you know, Bucky's body where he thinks that he would deserve that. You know, I think he's still having nightmares of murder. You know.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, that wouldn't be on the list, but it is a possibility.
True, and also because like at the end of Endgame, when Steve gives him the shield, like Sam looks back and Bucky kind of gives him like the nod of approval. He's
like, no.
Yeah. He's like, I'm nodding yes, but on the inside I'm so angry right now. I'm screaming no.
Yeah, I don't think I guess we can only assume that it was I guess the best assumption is that he doesn't know why he's doing it, why he's not going forward with it and instead forfeiting it.
Yeah, I wonder if he even knows like about that yet, or if he's still like, maybe
he doesn't have a mattress. Who the hell knows?
True, but he does have cable, but he isn't answering texts. So maybe he saw like the first text of Sam being like, "Hey, I'm done with this. I'm getting rid of the shield," and then he just went on block, you know. But I wonder if it's more of like the guilt, really, of Bucky trying to deal with his past as a Winter Soldier. If like feels like he doesn't even deserve to be in like an Avengers company, You know, like maybe it's nothing against Sam. Maybe it's like all personal where he's like, I feel like I can't associate with these people because like I've done some real terrible things and maybe I need to like reconcile with myself first before. I don't know. Just spitballing here.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of weird close-off thing. His therapist even said you're a civilian now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that they didn't offer him the opportunity to do certain things, right?
Right.
But again, that's probably just reading too much into it.
Right. She also mentioned that like he's pardoned now, too.
That's right. She did, didn't she?
So yeah. Again, Feige, dude, you did this to us. Mm-hmm. You make us question everything.
Everything.
I hate you and love you at the same time. But yeah, so I wonder, you know, I'm sure that will obviously get explored because in the trailer we see like a group therapy session. So clearly things are amended to some point where they're communicating.
That's right. That's right. They are sitting side by side, aren't they?
Yep.
It's more like a military type of counseling thing. There's not like a big, beautiful portrait behind them.
Right. Yeah. It kind of looks like they're in like an interrogation room almost.
Yeah.
But I'm loving the continued look at mental health with the MCU. Like, I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's what WandaVision was about at its core, was Wanda dealing with grief. And again, here it's a similar thing with Bucky, you know, again, just coming to terms and moving forward from his past and like reconciling with himself. Like that's not who you were as a person. That wasn't you. Like you were being controlled, like, and it's over now and you're yourself again. Like you're not that person. Mm-hmm. So I'm really enjoying that, like, because it's not something you really expect to see in like superhero stuff. You don't really see them struggling with this type of stuff. The struggles are always like against villains and like, you don't really see, at least on the film side of things, like them dive into this aspect of heroic struggles.
Sure. Yeah, that's why characters like Spider-Man, you know, were so big when he first came out too, because in the X-Men, you know, X-Men deal with, you know, crazy adversity.
Yeah.
You know, Spider-Man is a kind of a dork, always poor, didn't get the girls.
Yeah.
You know, stuff you can relate to. You know, with stuff with DC, you're almost reading like, well, you know, like it's like reading mythology. You know, like Zeus is super sad that his 50th wife left him. Well, he doesn't get Zeus. You know, like I can't relate to it still. 50 wives.
Right.
You know? DC really does stuff like that, where Marvel is always just kind of giving you your average guy as a superhero, so they keep their average guy problems too.
Yeah. And even DC's attempt at like a relatable character, he just happens to also be like a billionaire. So like you can't even relate to Batman.
He's a psychopath too. You know, Batman's not,
yes, you know? Also a psycho. But you know, we have a little introspection here from Bucky because he talks about never having a moment to rest. Basically, like, you know, after he conquered or like was freed of the Winter Soldier, like he had like a brief respite in Wakanda, and then it's just been from fight to fight to fight over like 90 years. Like this guy, this poor man, like his soul and mind needs rest and peace. And I just appreciate, you know, them tackling that stigma or whatever you want to say, that mental aspect. But the next scene that we move into, we're going to a nice little alley altercation between a senior citizen and a very hipster trash can sharer fella, between Unique, you know, like Monique, but with a U, so it's Unique. I was like,
totally.
I like both laughed and then also cringed.
Yeah, I was like and power.
Yeah, okay.
Turned off.
I got, like, you didn't need to explain, like, you know, because it's Unique. Like, I got that because you said your name was Unique, and then you even explained the U and the M thing. Yep. But anyways, between Unique and then Mr. Nakijama, which I probably butchered, so I apologize. But, you know, he's all mad because this youngin's trying to throw his trash in his trash can, and he like tries to like smack him. Like it's hilarious. But cuteness follows when Bucky and this old man, they go to lunch. They go on a little lunch date at a sushi bar, and the old fella, he asks out the bartender for Bucky, and it's pretty funny. A side note here,
it worked, right? Because like he
straight up worked.
Yeah. I mean, he's like, okay, why not?
Yeah, I mean, look at Bucky. I mean, how could you say no, right? Sebastian Stan is a handsome fella.
Looks so much like Mark Hamill. It's crazy.
I know, dude. He needs to be Luke so bad.
Everyone talks about that. I'm just like, one day I never really saw it, but I'm like, oh my god, they're right.
Yeah,
it's
uncanny.
Yep.
But side note here, the actress that plays the bartender, who I believe her name is Leah in the show. Another name I'm totally going to butcher, but she's played by Miki Ishikawa, which who played, I mean, she's been in a lot of things, but I recognized her from season 2 of The Terror, which is on AMC, which is a really cool like horror anthology series. But she plays Amy Yoshida in that show, and she was really good in it. And I was like, oh, this lady's awesome. I really enjoy her. So it's cool to see her in this show. Which, if you haven't seen The Terror, I believe you can stream it on Hulu. There are 2 seasons. Like I said, quick little plug for The Terror. It's an anthology show, so season 1 is a separate story from season 2. But they're really good. I recommend it. But yeah, then the scene quickly turns from cuteness overload to like straight punch to your heart when Yuri, is that his name? Was that, I believe that was his first name, probably wrong, but whatever, I'll call him Yuri. The old man, he talks about his son and his son's death, and he was just working abroad, and the police said he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and something just didn't sit right with him. He was he's like, it just didn't feel right, and he's like pointing to his heart, and you can see this clearly is affecting Bucky. And of course, I totally was oblivious to it. The first time I watched it, I was just like, oh yeah, I'd be pretty sad too hearing about someone's son die. And then this time I was like, oh, I mean, it helps that I saw the reveal, but like then I was like, oh, how did I miss that? Like, I'm so
that
bad.
Part was I was watching that with Kelly, and Kelly, like, I think she was like crocheting or something, and when we realized that that was his son, and Bucky obviously pulled the trigger, she just looked at the TV like like all of a sudden the show that was actually the hook, line, and sinker for her to get into it right there.
So that obviously is like really sucky. But then it kind of explains the relationship there, which we'll get into. But then that, of course, is abruptly changed. We get a nice change of scenery here from the incredibly sad sushi bar to the dirt road, or Sam driving down the road in Louisiana. He's back in his hometown, and we get to meet his sister Sarah, and her kids, her family. She's out working on the dock selling seafood, I believe shrimp, I don't know, fish, some sort of seafood stuff. They got a little boat, but again, this is just like I was talking about before, like we're diving back into the repercussions of the snap and the return, and she was not snapped out of existence. She was left to try to pick up the pieces during this 5-year period of time, and it was just real hard on her family. Like they had their struggles, their business is failing, like you learn that she's had to take out a bunch of loans to like keep the house from being repossessed and things like that. And it's just like real sad and like real tough on the people who survived. And like I said before, like I'm real happy that they're diving into this and not just glossing over it.
It was actually really cool that that it's his sister. It's not like a love interest.
Right.
We're asking like parallel love interest going on here, or I guess neither technically by the end of it. But I think she'll be back, honestly. But
Yeah.
Being his sister, it's just a dynamic for the character to where you're not totally worried about their love life. Maybe it's stupid to focus on that, but to me that was a relief, honestly.
And, no, it's true, and you don't see like sibling relationships much in shows or movie. It's always a love interest.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is refreshing. I didn't think about that, but now that you say that, it is like pretty cool. You get like a familial aspect instead of like, love interest. I enjoy that.
Yep.
But in this, even in this scene, and then in a later scene, we see like even with Torres and in the scene inside the city when they're repairing Red Wing.
Yeah.
I almost called him like Red Hawk or something like that.
Well, last episode I was calling him Redbird over and over again.
There you go. All right. I'm not the only one.
It's Robin's motorcycle.
Yes. I actually almost called it a kite. But it kind of, to be fair, it kind of looks like one. So get off my back.
Sure doesn't look like a bird.
Yeah. But we see like Falcon kind of has this like celebrity like kind of like persona going on. We have people coming up and being like, "Oh, it's Falcon! Like, hey, teach me how to fly! Like, thanks for saving my family!" Or like,
"Can I borrow the wings?"
Exactly. So you have the Stark tech. You have like this sort of celebrity persona kind of like showing through Sam. I don't think they're positioning him to be like a Tony Stark or Iron Man figure, because I believe that's clearly Peter Parker in the MCU right now. Like, he was Iron Man's like protege, and like there was a lot of Iron Man stuff in Homecoming, or Far From Home, I mean. But it's kind of cool to see the celebrity aspect, like, someone else being recognized and like kind of like Iron Man always was, or Tony Stark always was.
To bounce off that too, the Fantastic Four, they're celebrities, and in the Marvel comics, they're celebrities, and their identities are also public, just like Tony Stark and a few of these others. So it's kind of it's an easy entryway for them, right? Just because superheroes are all stars, right? So why not have them just walk right out, and there's nothing really. It kind of kills it because it's not really that unique. But whether they exist already or they don't exist, it'll be a pretty smooth transition when that happens. But Reed Richards will also be a big Tony Stark shoe filler. Right.
Yeah, it'll be super cool when that all happens. But yeah, so we go from this scene back to the sushi bar. We're in like the pre-date zone here because Leah, she isn't off work yet, and that's when the date starts apparently. But apparently no one goes to the sushi bar because she's able to just like hang out with Bucky and play Battleship. So I don't know, maybe they need to like relocate or something. But yeah, it's kind of like I really enjoyed the humor in this scene. So like, we have Bucky talking about trying online dating, and like it's like, just a lot of weird pictures, like tiger photos. Like, I'm like, okay, that's hilarious. And she's like, "How old are you?" And he's like, 106. And she laughs, and he's like, "Hey, I mean, I am." She's like, "Why do you wear gloves?" "For poor circulation and budget saving, so we don't have to CGI a metal arm every time you're on the screen." But yeah, it's just like nice little injection of humor. But where the scene really takes off while they're playing Battleship, Leah, she lays it on pretty thick, and I'm talking like 2 C's. She's just going on and on about the dead son.
Yep.
It's like, wow, yeah, what a real a-hole, whoever killed that guy. And Bucky's just sitting there. He's like, "Can I have another, please?" But again, this is clearly affecting him. And if you were kind of dumb like me and completely missed the point of the earlier conversation in the sushi bar, at this point it starts to solidify a little more.
Yeah.
And you're like, I think there's some connection
Something
here
going on here.
Yeah. And then, you know, he's like, hey, I gotta leave, sorry. And gets up, he goes up to the father's apartment and he opens the door, and then, if you hadn't caught on yet, they show a nice little shrine of the son and his picture, just to make sure idiots like me, like 100% knew what was going on.
What's going on?
Hey, by the way, Mike, you big idiot, that's his dad.
That's funny.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that.
Real quick, did when he walked out of the sushi bar, he didn't say anything, right? He literally just got up and walked out.
No, he's like, I gotta go.
Okay.
And then he just leaves, and she's just like, okay.
I was meaning to go back and just check that.
Yeah. It's like, well, maybe I shouldn't have just talked about dead kids for like 20 minutes.
Not your thing?
Yeah.
Not your thing?
But yeah, he goes up and, you know, he just gives him some money for lunch, and then he opens up his book, and wouldn't you know, his name's right there at the top of the page. So, you know, again, Bucky's trying to reconcile his past, and I think that's great for his personal development and like getting over this. But I wonder how he's going to do that with this guy, because I don't think covering lunch money is is his idea of being like, hey, you know, I might have murdered your son in cold blood, but
yeah,
I did give you $11.50 for that sushi, so
right.
We're good.
Yeah. 3 for $12.
Yeah.
It's a classic, right? You know exactly.
No specialty rolls.
you know exactly what I'm talking about. The question is, will he tell him, or will he give him all the answers and leave? Yeah,
because it seems like they've been commingling for a while, because they, you know, have these lunch dates or whatever, you know. So like,
yeah. That's special rules. That's just funny.
Oh, I'm glad you appreciate it, at least, because I doubt my terrible jokes are appreciated by many more. Oh man, but yes. So after we get the glimpse of Bucky's Black Book, as I'm calling it, we're transported all of a sudden to Switzerland. We're in the streets of Switzerland. And Torres, he's got his little phone in his little jacket pocket with the camera exposed, and he's got his little phone in his hand and with his handy dandy terrorist tracker app, looking for all the flag smashers. Hey, I'm just saying, like, how does the government not have this app? I mean, I guess that would make for a really bad story that would end in like an hour.
Maybe they're okay with it.
They could be, because the government sucks. So you heard it here first. But yeah, so he's out, you know, roaming the streets, trying to find this flag smasher meetup. And wouldn't you know, he found the spot, because everyone there, he's just like, hey, are you here for you smashing flags too? And then, you know, a person runs out in the street and just kind of like throws a bag of masks down, and everyone puts one on. And then they get a text, which was in, you know, Swedish, I'm assuming, and I'm assuming it also said run, but I don't know what it said. But yeah, they get the alert on their phone, and then all of a sudden, someone jumps out of the window of a building they're standing in front of or he throws out some duffel bags, jumps out the window, and you know, chaos is happening in the streets below, and they like pass the duffel bags off to some other people, and you learn quickly that this character here with the duffel bags is not one to be trifled with, because he is just tossing people around like rag dolls.
Yeah, the first kick I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Our pal Batroc could, you know, learn a lesson or two from this guy. Right. But yeah, so he's like kicking people across the street. He's picking up Torres, doing some crazy like Steve Austin, like Stone Cold, I don't know, Undertaker choke slam, flippy suplex thing, I don't know, but he throws him around like like he's
how do you know all those terms but not know where they go? I don't know. You like This guy was the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Hey, I do what I can.
It's
But yeah, Torres tries to stop him. He pulls out his gun. And he's like, "Hey, I don't have jurisdiction here, but you got to stop doing this." And then he's like,
but I got a gun.
"I don't care," and throws him around like he's a ragdoll. And then if that wasn't insulting enough, he just gets a nice old boot to the orbital.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
you're lucky to be alive.
Yeah,
right?
with that strength, I'm surprised he didn't look
jelly
like
his head, right?
Gallagher watermelon session there or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so this is interesting because this looks to be at least the setup of some sort of leader, maybe, or like you were saying, muscle enforcer of the Flag Smashers. And clearly looks to have some sort of superhuman abilities. So what do you know about this alleged character? And like, is there any sort of comic equivalent or what's going on here?
Well, not really, honestly. There's not exactly a comic equivalent of the character. Even Smag Flasher himself in the comic, I think he was just a really good fighter. I don't think he actually had like any enhanced capabilities. This guy was obviously, or girl was obviously enhanced.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds weird. But I think the whole, again, we know it's an organization, right? Well, when in the comics, when they wanted to replace Captain America at one point, they wanted to use someone else who was another symbol of Captain America, but by destroying the old ways would get people to look at the new type of Captain America as the true hero. I know it's confusing because we never really got to U.S. Agent yet or anything like that, but there was a campaign by the government to kind of blur out the image of the original Captain America in order to establish a new hero. So that's why I kind of said maybe the government's okay with it. Maybe they're okay with this organization creating chaos so that people will try to find a new hero that represents them to stop them. So it could be like a false flag, ironically, the Flag Smashers, but it could be a false flag operation.
Excuse me, I forgot how to drink there for a second and swallowed down the wrong pipe. So they're in Switzerland and they make a point to show that on screen. I wonder, one, what they were stealing, like what's in the duffel bags. That's obviously significant. And two, like, could it be some sort of super soldier serum or something that maybe they're using to enhance people like the person that we saw? And is that place, is Switzerland like a place that would have that? You know what I mean? Like, is this maybe like an old Hydra lab or hideout or something? I don't know.
There's never really anything exactly like that. But for all we know, we know there's a lot of super soldier serums that exist. And the original Incredible Hulk that had Edward Norton in it. He Thunderbolt Ross in that, the general who's kind of the bad guy.
Right.
They took him into a room where they had tons of super soldier serum, right? It's called cryo something.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a lot of it that still exists. And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and that is confirmed to be in the MCU. Like I heard.
Yes,
Feige
absolutely.
Talk about it before. So
yeah, Edward Norton's Hulk is the Avengers Hulk.
Yeah.
So have you watched that movie out of curiosity?
Yeah.
Okay. Because like Tony Stark is in it, obviously.
Yeah.
And, so there's a lot of things that happen there. But there's a character named Power Broker, and this character, it's kind of like think of a broker with money. He does
power.
Exactly right. Yeah, he does it with like his number one tactic is to utilize variations of super soldier serums. So That could, or obviously they was talking about Torres, how he gets his powers, he gets experimented on, and presto. So there could, I think a lot of the Captain America side characters that will pop up, it'll have an umbrella reasoning, and that umbrella reasoning is probably going to be people that are using Power Broker to do that.
Interesting.
But, even in the credits, actually, I don't know if you watched the credits. There was a lot of stuff that was going through it. I tried. The only thing I could really, there was one thing that was kind of weird, but I don't even want to speculate on it. But it says, I think it says Power Broker is watching you at the very top. Yeah.
Nice.
So Zemo could be utilizing Power Broker. The government could be also doing deals with Power Broker. The Flag Smashers could be.
The 10 rings. No.
10 rings. Yeah, I know, right? Everything but the 10 rings.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Like, we've talked about on the Mandalorian shows, and then our episode that we did with A Bite Of, where we kind of dug into WandaVision and stuff. Like, first off, I think it's hilarious that the credits for all these Disney Plus shows are like 8 minutes long, but also the first chunk of the credits have some super cool like art or like in the Mandalorian, it was like concept art. WandaVision had like the cool graphics, and like you're saying, this one I started to watch and watched a good chunk just to make sure there was no post-credit scene or whatever. But yeah, the artwork and stuff is super cool. And of course, in my dumb mind, I didn't even think to like pay attention to what the art was for like Easter eggs and clues. So thank you. Yeah. Once again, picking up the slack.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, interesting. Power Broker. I wonder if any other fellow podcast or speculators, I just made that up, caught that and will run with it. I'm sure they did, because they're a lot better than us. I mean, they're professionals.
Yeah, they probably watched like 5 times. I watched it once.
But yeah, so Power Broker, it's very interesting. So I wonder if I at this point am going to make a hard stance, probably very stupidly, and say that those bags contained some sort of serum.
Okay, I thought you were going to say the 10 rings.
Yeah. I try to like get all my jokes in while you're drinking.
Yeah.
A goal of mine, besides proving the 10 rings link, is to get
10
you to like
bags. 10 duffel bags. Each
what
with
you
one
didn't
little ring.
see is they were Russian dolls of duffel bags, and there were 10 of them. So it's just duffel bag inside a duffel bag, and then eventually get to a serum. Yeah, another goal is to get you to spit your drink out during one of these episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so crazy scene. We're introduced to possibly the Flag Smasher of sorts, for all intents and purposes. But we then transition back to Louisiana with Sam and Sarah heading to the bank to try to get a loan to fix up the boat and consolidate all of Sarah's debt, to kind of try to get her back on her feet. And we see Sam try to leverage his Avenger-ness and like celebrity to like help out in this, acquiring this loan. And first off, like the banker, total scumbag.
Absolutely.
Just straight up like keeps like, aren't you that one guy? And he's like
selfie, right?
Flapping his little hands like, oh yeah, the Falcon. Asking for selfies, telling him to like spread his arms out, like fangirling hard over Sam. And I love how Sarah just is like, so can you stop being a complete tool and like help us with this loan?
Yeah.
But I think the most burning question that arises from this is, how do the Avengers make money?
Right.
Because they do not get compensated, apparently.
Right. It is a little strange, right? I don't know. I can't tell you the comics have ever answered that, because they definitely haven't.
See, we're asking all the hard questions here.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, not that it matters, but probably Tony Stark was just being like, I got you.
It makes, probably between that and probably Black Panther.
Yeah.
You know?
And we kind of, excuse me, Sam, basically is like, yeah, I get contracted by the government to do all this military stuff, and like you see that in the beginning, you hear him talk with Torres about being serving together for 6 months or so they become independent contractor heroes
Right.
hired by job. But yeah, basically the banker's like, yo, I love you, Falcon, but yeah, can't help you, sorry. We know your family's been banking here for generations, but we can't give you a loan. And
they never really gave a reason though, right? Like
they just like Sam says something like, I know
he didn't have income for 5 years because he disappeared, right?
that, and then
Okay.
he says something like he knows that they definitely qualify for like an SBA loan. And the banker's just like, it's real quick in passing. He's like, yeah, not under the new regulations or something. So something probably we're led to believe something happened within those 5 years that Sam has been gone, that like banking regulations changed or whatever. Which I say, this is my retort: screw banks and go crypto.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I know that's what you're all about. So
a lot. Yeah. I'm at the point now where I stare at money in my bank and I'm just like, well, why are you here? What it doesn't make it just, yeah, it's incredible.
Yes. But yeah, it's just more of that dealing with the snap and the return. And it's just, I clearly by this point, if you haven't caught on that I love that aspect of this show and WandaVision, then I don't know what you've been listening to, because I've said it like 5 times. Yeah.
Banks are probably also like, well, we just had 5 billion people walk out on us for 5 years. It's like, I guess True. It kind of makes sense in a way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it makes sense that there's probably they're probably a little bit more sensitive at giving out loans in general. But
yeah, that's true. But I don't want to side with the banks because they're scumbags.
I know.
Not that I've ever been personally slighted by banks, but yeah, that guy was kind of a real big tool. So, but yeah, after this, when Sam and Sarah make it back home or wherever Sam is staying, he gets a call from Torres, and he's like, "Hey, get to a secure line. We got to chat. I got my face stomped in by this crazy dude." So he tells him about his encounter with the Flag Smashers, and we get a real interesting back and forth here, where Sam starts to think with his face, and you can see that he's thinking about something that is concerning to Torres, because he's like, "Oh, do you think it's?" And before he could even say, Sam's like, "No." And then the hang up or something.
Right.
So who does Torres think Sam's thinking about? Do you have any ideas?
I mean,
because I don't think he's referring to the Batroc Brigade, because this sounded had a more serious feeling to this exchange.
Yeah, I think that's probably, when that's revealed, it'll probably be a surprise to everybody. I think there's maybe they know about other characters that haven't even been alluded to yet, but right. I don't know. It's the I don't know. Sky's the limit on that one.
Yeah. So again, I think this is the 5th thing that I've said. We're gonna have to keep an eye out for about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if. Sorry for all the throat clears, because I'm still dealing with not knowing how to drink. I'm still on the mend here. But yeah, interesting to see if this is gonna be a totally new character, if he's referring to Zemo, or if he's referring to the Mandarin.
It's hard to know because right. It's the main reason it's hard to know is if he hasn't told him about where Captain America's at right now.
Right.
What has he told him? Right.
True.
Yeah. That's what makes it the.
Or what else have they been through in the 6 months they've been working together? Like,
that is true too.
Was there like a previous threat that they thought they eliminated before taking on the brigade or the LAF?
Yeah.
Which every time I say and heard LAF, I immediately thought of Party in the USA for some reason.
What?
Don't ask how my mind works. It's a mystery. Anyways, I mean, it's kind of fitting, right? It's Captain America. Anyways,
yes. I'm with you.
I
see it. I see it. Oh my God, I see it.
Illuminating minds since 9 p.m. Eastern. Anyways, so this phone call ends and Sarah comes in the room, and I don't know if Sam already had the TV on or if she's like, hey, you gotta check this out. This probably isn't good. I don't know how she knew exactly this was going to be terrible news for Sam, but she did. And they, turn on the TV, and wouldn't you know, we got another press conference going on, and it's that not cool dude from earlier at the Smithsonian when Sam was retiring the shield. And here he is saying, we need a new hero. We need a new symbol. We need a new Captain America. And this pompous, smug turd in the Captain America suit walks out, and he just smiles at the camera and gives you the most ridiculous wink ever. I've never wanted to punch a face so hard in my life. What disrespect. And clearly Sam and Sarah are quite distraught over this. So, a lot to unpack in this part. Obviously they're bummed, but is this kind of what we were alluding to earlier of maybe Sam being like asked or gently forced to, not assume the Captain America mantle because they had this plan all along, or maybe he was talked into not assuming the Captain America mantle because they said Captain America wasn't needed anymore or something, and then they pull this move behind his back like, psych, we just got this guy. What do you think?
I mean, we're talking about earlier. I definitely believe it was a planned thing because it happened really quick, obviously, right? They put it into like a little plastic display glass as if it was going to go to the museum, but it went straight into
the back of a van.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. So it went absolutely, obviously, straight to John Walker's hands. And this is why I'm thinking that the Flag Smasher organization might be planned. I think they're supposed to cause a certain amount of chaos that the government will utilize this new Captain America, John Walker, to maybe go out and stop them and show that he is the hero that they need again, just to kind of reestablish that icon of the government hero, right? Yeah. Early on, when John Walker first showed up, like in the 80s or so, in Captain America books, it was like 86 or 87, and he's the anti-hero Captain America. I mean, it's pretty obvious just looking at how he walks out. You can see a sidearm on his hip, right? He's got a gun.
Okay. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. So he's a much the character himself. Now, who knows what the TV show character will be, but in the comics, he is a patriot, almost to a fault. He's very, very zealous, and he wants to be a hero, but he's never lived up to what he wanted to be. That's kind of how this is where my mindset goes back to Power Broker a little bit, because Power Broker, he utilized Power Broker to take him to that next level, to be closer to Captain America's level, right? To have the skill and the powers. And when he's trying to, this will be different, because in the comics, Captain America exists. You're running parallel with Captain America. He's competing with Captain America. So during that time, he had people dress up like Captain America and commit crimes. And when they would commit the crimes, it would kind of dirty the image of Captain America, and people start questioning him. And he's like, "That's okay, I'll save you," the type of thing. Right. In some ways, I think people will look at him He's not obviously as powerful or as brutal, but he's kind of the Homelander to Superman, right?
Okay, yeah.
He's just a smug bastard that you're just kind of like, this guy's a very pompous.
So did they say John Walker at all in this episode?
No, it has to be him.
Right.
I don't know if do you have the credits or the credits?
Not handy.
If it's not him, I'll eat my words. Obviously.
All right.
But
keep talking. I'll look it up on IMDb real quick.
No, that's fine. But when in the comics, before he was Captain America, he was it's so dumb. He was Super Patriot.
Okay, I was gonna ask what his name was in the comics. Yeah. Was he like Lieutenant USA or something?
No, no. It was and this is me. When I heard that, or I saw like a leaked image of like who I thought was U.S. Agent of the show, I went and picked up the issue where he first debuted first as U.S. Agent, but that was like one of the first things I jumped on. But he got the powers, and I think he was supposed to be like a wrestler. And instead of being a wrestler, he just was like, wait a minute, I can utilize this for,
of course, the obvious leap for all WWF superstars.
Right.
But yes, he is played by Wyatt Russell, who is credited as John Walker / the U.S. Agent. So.
Okay. And, he was Super Patriot, and then he actually assumed the title of Captain America for a little bit. And then after that, he became U.S. Agent. And it wasn't until he was U.S. Agent that he really set into the anti-hero. He wasn't exactly like a villain.
Mm-hmm.
He was just like an anti-hero. He was part of the Dark Avengers. But he was also part of the West Coast Avengers. So he's been on a lot of different teams.
Right.
And he's in and I don't know, in the show, he was in red, white, and blue, right? His outfit?
He was in what looked to be pretty much the Captain America outfit.
Okay. In the comics, when he really gets to his prime in the comics, he wears red, white, and black. And it's really cool.
Nice. That does sound really cool.
Yeah. I'm excited to see where they go with it, but it's hard to know what he's done up to this point, obviously, because in the comics, again, he runs parallel in existence with Captain America. Now he's assuming the place, so he'll probably just be called Captain America, and then after that become U.S. Agent. I don't know.
I mean, we all know that he's just a puppet of the Mandarin. It's clear.
Very clear.
The writing is on the wall.
Yeah.
As Agatha would say, a meat puppet of old. Oh, you haven't got that far. Sorry.
No.
Anyways, okay. But yeah, so clearly, for non-comic readers such as myself, this was quite the twist to end the first episode off. So yeah, I'm excited to see, like you said, where they take this character. Like, is he going to be, in that middle gray area? Are they going to paint him as a villain, or are they gonna, work it out where he's, part of the team, like ends up being a good guy? You know what I mean?
Good.
So yeah, do you have anything left about the episode itself you wanted to, cover before we jump into our Marvel comic origin segment? Wow, that's terrible segment voice I just did there, but
we kind of just did it for John Walker, didn't we?
Yeah.
But it's, I think the launching pad of this episode to go into what where these characters can go. A lot of people thought this episode was altogether boring, and I completely disagreed. I think that this is a perfect launching pad for. I mean, I'm not even interested in any like action that happens right now. I'm really interested to see how they're going to deal with the problems that were established in this first episode.
Like, and these people that keep saying these episodes are boring, like, what are you expecting? Like, we're not going to get a mini series full of endgame like episodes. You have to establish story arcs and like the characters you're following. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, absolutely.
What
And like I said, to be excited about what is, how these problems are going to get solved is, I consider that a win for the episode.
yeah.
I don't know. That's just me though. I don't.
No, it established a lot of interesting things about dealing with the snap, like WandaVision did. You got to the reintroduction, I should say, of Batroc in the beginning. So he'll play a part. We got a villain there. We haven't seen Zemo yet, so we're trying to piece together how he ties in with what we've been introduced to already. You have this wrench in the gears here of John Walker, taking Cap's shield, and like Sam not being cool with that, as probably he should be. Yeah, I'm excited. This is a good first episode in my opinion, and I'm excited to see what the remaining 5 episodes have in store for us. And like you said, I believe our MCU comic origin, character here was John Walker, and he did a great introduction. It was so natural that we didn't even have to introduce a segment. You just knocked it all right out there. It's great.
Real quick though, one thing that would be really good for if anyone wants to learn about John Walker. So I think that really kind of does go over the history of the character and what could go forward with it. But if you want to actually learn about John Walker, his first appearance as Super Patriot was Captain America 323 in November of 1986. His first appearance being titled as Captain America, which along with that is you kind of look at Jason Todd as Robin. He's a little bit more of a brutal version of the character. So he was Captain America. He was called Captain America by S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers, but his tactics were a little bit borderline lethal, so they didn't like it very much. Right. But his first title being called Captain America was in Captain America 333. That was September of 1987. And my personal favorite, where I think that you'll probably get the most out of learning about this character going forward, is his first appearance as U.S. Agent in Captain America 354. That was in June of 1989. So those are a couple areas you could read about John Walker and where, what could happen out of this character, what we'll hear about. I assume we'll probably hear about the Super Patriot, maybe as a wrestler. I can see that. Some cheesy thing they bring up or something, but
right.
Yeah, if you want to learn about the character a little bit more, those are good places to read about.
Well, thanks for the heads up. That's some good material there. And lastly, before we move on, I'm staying on the train. I'm not jumping off. So sadly though, our 10 Rings watch that segment's pretty empty this week. I didn't notice any clear tie-ins, but I'm telling you.
It's kind of funny. It's 10 Rings watch. It's like, how many pieces of jewelry can you?
Yeah. They're all puppets of the Mandarin. But I'm staying hard. So we know Shang-Chi, the main plot line is a fighting tournament. And it's suspected to take place in Madripoor, which from the trailer of, the first trailer of Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's heavily speculated that we're going to visit this location at some point. So I'm sticking to my guns.
Yeah.
There will be 10 Rings tie-ins. I just won't know them right off the bat because I have no Marvel comic knowledge. So I am leaning so hard on you for this, Jordan.
No, we'll be good.
Vindicate me.
I'm gonna honestly, even if it's as plain as day, I'm gonna be like, no, there's no clues yet.
Nothing. I haven't seen it.
No,
I don't even know what rings are.
I like wearing all 10 rings.
Yeah.
I've never even seen them before.
Yes.
I think. I know one of my speculations early on was the Thunderbolts. I think we might see a variation of the Thunderbolts. But that's what I'm going to hold on to.
Nice. I will be very interested to see if the power broker comes in or if that was just a nice little nod, especially with the credit art, like you were saying. Yeah, lots to look forward to, and only 5 episodes to give us all the things that we want. So I'm sure a lot of us will be disappointed in, the Falcon and Winter Soldier's version of the great Mephisto letdown of 2021.
That's right.
But yes, I think that wraps it up for me. You got any closing remarks you want to get out there before we head out?
No, I'm excited for next week's episode and this.
Yes. Again, if you tuned into the live stream, if you are watching this on YouTube and you like what you heard, please consider subscribing and liking our videos. Turn on the notification bell so you know every time we post new content, which lately has been pretty frequently. We do this show every Sunday night following the latest episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. We have our newscast, the Showboys newscast, every other Monday, which tomorrow is another episode of the Showboys newscast. And every Thursday night at 9, we have our regular weekly Showboys show. So lots of stuff coming out. Make sure you tune in. If you listening to this on an audio-only platform, please consider rating, reviewing, subscribing wherever you can on whatever platform you listen to. It greatly helps us out. Follow us on Discord and our social medias. All of these links can be found at linktr.ee/showboyspodcast. And just like we did last week, we're going to send you out with the amazing remix of the Avengers theme song that our good friend SJT has allowed us to use for the audio versions of this show. So we hope you enjoy. And until next time, we will see you later.
The Avengers. So we call ourselves two-headed team. Earth's mightiest hero. We control the sun. We control the sun.